This film was shot in a desert recently exposed to nuclear fallout. It starred one of Hollywood's biggest icons. Years later, many people involved became seriously ill. This is the documented history of The Conqueror. The Conqueror is a historical epic released in 1956 and produced by RKO Radio Pictures. The film starred John Wayne as Genghis Khan and was directed by Dick Powell. At the time of its production, it was a large-scale studio project with significant financial investment and major star power. Today, the film is remembered less for its narrative and more for the circumstances surrounding its production and aftermath. The project was conceived as a grand historical spectacle. Producer Howard Hughes, who controlled RKO at the time, intended the film to be a major commercial success. Large outdoor battle scenes, elaborate costumes, and extensive location shooting were planned to enhance realism and visual scale. Principal photography took place in 1954, primarily near St. George, Utah. The area was chosen for its dramatic desert landscapes, which were considered suitable for portraying the Mongolian steppes. However, this region had recently been exposed to radioactive fallout from nuclear weapons tests conducted at the Nevada test site, located roughly 100 miles away. Throughout the early 1950s, the United States conducted numerous above-ground nuclear detonations in Nevada. Radioactive dust from these tests was carried by wind patterns across surrounding regions, including parts of Utah. At the time, the long-term health effects of fallout exposure were not fully understood by the general public. Cast and crew members spent months filming on location in this environment. Large quantities of soil from the Utah site were also transported to Hollywood for studio shooting to maintain visual continuity. This material was used to recreate the same terrain on sound stages, further extending potential exposure. During production, no protective measures specific to radiation were implemented. Filming proceeded as a conventional outdoor shoot, with personnel working long hours under desert conditions. There is no evidence that the production team was formally warned about contamination risks at the time. The Conqueror was released in 1956. Critically, it performed poorly. Reviewers often cited miscasting and tonal inconsistencies. Commercial performance did not meet expectations, and the film quickly acquired a reputation as a major disappointment despite its budget and star power. In the years following the release, a number of individuals associated with the production were diagnosed with cancer or other serious illnesses. Reports frequently highlighted the fact that several principal cast members, including John Wayne, Susan Hayward, and director Dick Powell, later developed cancer. However, cancer was a common cause of death in mid-20th century America, making statistical interpretation complex. Public concern intensified when journalists and researchers began noting the geographic connection between the filming location and nuclear test fallout zones. The story evolved into a broader discussion about the health risks faced by populations living downwind of nuclear testing sites. Howard Hughes reportedly became deeply troubled by the possibility that the film's production environment had contributed to illness among those involved. Later in his life, Hughes purchased and withdrew many prints of The Conqueror from circulation. For a period, the film was rarely screened publicly. Despite widespread claims, definitive scientific proof directly linking the production to specific illnesses has remained elusive. Epidemiological studies of fallout exposure involve numerous variables, including background cancer rates, smoking prevalence, occupational hazards, and genetic factors. As a result, causation cannot be conclusively established on an individual basis. Nevertheless, the association between the Conqueror and nuclear fallout has persisted in public memory. The film has become a case study in the intersection of filmmaking, environmental hazard, and Cold War history. It illustrates how industrial activities unrelated to cinema can influence film production outcomes. Unlike many lost films, The Conqueror itself survives and is accessible today. The film is not missing. What distinguishes it is the narrative surrounding its creation. The production context has overshadowed the artistic content, transforming the film into a historical artifact of its circumstances. The episode also reflects broader patterns of mid-century nuclear policy. During the 1950s, atmospheric testing was conducted with limited public disclosure about potential health risks. Communities in affected regions later reported elevated rates of illness, leading to long-term political and legal debates. For the participants in The Conqueror, the production became intertwined with these larger historical forces. The film stands as an example of how cultural projects can intersect with environmental and governmental decisions beyond the control of artists and technicians. In subsequent decades, historians and journalists have revisited the story to separate documented facts from speculation. While some narratives exaggerate the scale of illness or imply direct causation, reliable accounts focus on confirmed data, the filming location, the presence of fallout, and the later health outcomes of certain individuals. Today, The Conqueror occupies a unique position in film history. It is neither a lost film nor a conventional production story. Instead, it is remembered as a film associated with one of the most controversial technological developments of the 20th century, nuclear weapons testing. The legacy of the film underscores the importance of environmental awareness in location selection and production planning. Modern film shoots routinely conduct safety assessments that were uncommon in earlier decades. The Conqueror also highlights how reputations can evolve over time. Initially regarded as a failed historical epic, it later became known primarily for its connection to nuclear fallout and health concerns. The narrative surrounding the film transformed its place in cultural memory. While the full extent of the impact on individuals may never be definitively quantified, the documented facts remain significant. A major Hollywood production was filmed in an area affected by radioactive fallout during a period of limited public understanding of the risks. As long as nuclear testing history remains part of public discourse, The Conqueror will continue to be cited as an example of how global events can intersect with popular culture. Its story demonstrates that the context of a film's production can become more historically important than the film itself. The Conqueror endures not because of its artistic success, but because of the questions it raises about safety, responsibility, and unintended consequences in the atomic age.